Hey guys, what's going on? KP here, back with another episode of the KP Podcast. I got a guest here for you. He is a drummer of the band called Sleepers. I've toured with him. I know this guy, super great guy. His name's Mr. Nate White. Nate, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. How about you?
Oh, that's great to hear, man. I'm doing pretty well. We're going to dive right into it, just get started right now. Who is Sleepers, and where are you guys from?
Well, I don't really know what subgenre we'd be anymore, but we are now a four-piece metal band out of Buffalo, New York.
Okay, and you are the drummer, correct?
Yeah, I play drums for the band.
Okay, now, how long have you been in the band, and how long have you been drumming for in general?
I've been in the band, I'd say about 5 years. I'm pretty sure we started the band in like late 2014, something like that. And I've been with the band since the beginning. And then I've been playing drums, I'd say probably for 11, 12 years. I think I started playing when I was about 14 or 15 years old, something like that.
Okay, now when did you decide to pick up your first pair of drumsticks and say, this is for me?
Well, my dad's actually a drummer. And I was kind of around it my entire life. And I feel like music was always something I always wanted to get into, but I didn't really have the balls to dive into it or anything like that. So I think right around 12, 13, like when my parents weren't home, I would set up like spare pieces of drums that my dad had laying around, and I would set up and just kind of jam out when they weren't home. And then just over the couple of years of doing that, I got a little bit better with it and ended up, joining my first band when I was 14, I believe.
Okay, now, it's not every day you pick up a pair of drumsticks where you sit behind your first drum kit and you decide, all right, time for some metal. Why did you go down the metal route? What bands kind of inspired you to do that?
Honestly, it was just something I kind of fell into. Like when I started playing, I think my first band was like a rock band. Like, I was a kid. We used to do like, Coheed and Cambria covers and, Blink-182 and Rise Against, stuff like that. And I just I always kind of had a love for metal growing up. And then, I met some kids that were really into it, and they were involved in the local scene, and they had their own band. And, I figured, why not? I'll give it a shot. And I just got so heavily involved in it that everything I've done since then has been, a metal band. And it's just kind of become one of the things that I've been comfortable doing. I know how to carry myself in a metal band and how to, run things and how to push things the proper way with a metal band.
So it feels pretty natural to you just to be with a metal band.
Yeah, in general, yeah, I'd say so.
Okay, I got you. So how many releases does Sleepers have, and can you tell me a little about all of them?
Sure. So I think we have right now two singles and an EP out. When the band first started, we dropped a single called Nausea, and then I'd say probably a year or so after that, we ended up releasing an EP called Hive. And there was a decent gap of time between the two releases there, just because we fall into this pattern of we write like a 4 or 5 songs, and we're jamming them for a while. We'll play them out for a little bit, and we're just kind of like, nah, this isn't really what we're looking for, and then we kind of start over. And we rewrite an entire new set. So eventually we had a group of songs that we were stoked on, and that was what became our first EP called Hive. And I think a couple months after that, we dropped a single called Worm Tongue. Again, was a little bit more into a new direction that we were looking to go in. And then I think it's been almost 2 years since that last release. again, we kind of fell into the trap of like, we were writing some songs and we weren't really, too happy with them. So it was a bunch of like trial and error trying to figure out where we wanted to go with the music. And then, eventually we came upon a group of 6, 7 songs or so that we really liked. And we actually just finished recording and mixing our newest upcoming album that should hopefully be out this fall.
Nice. So you were talking a little bit about kind of the writing process for Sleepers. Tell me about how usually the writing process goes. Does someone come in with a riff? Does everyone kind of get together in the same room? Is it separate? Bands have this, every band kind of writes differently. I want to know how Sleepers writes their songs.
Well, I guess the pattern we've kind of fallen into, I would say right now, our vocalist Jesse and our guitar player Nick are probably the 2 main songwriters in the band. Normally it's, one of those guys will have a riff or they'll have like, half a song or something like that. They'll get together and they'll kind of bounce ideas off of each other and stuff like that. Eventually, you end up with a finished song. So once they have a somewhat finished product, they'll kind of send it out to me and our bass player Scott, and we'll kind of sit down with it. We'll jam on it a little bit, see if we have any ideas, and then we normally get together at that point to jam it as a full band, kind of work out any other kinks or ideas that any of us might have now that we're playing it as a live band. Because sometimes, like when you sit down and kind of demo some stuff out compared to playing it live, things kind of change a little bit just with, feel to playing them live compared to hearing them on the record and stuff. But that's kind of been our routine over the last couple of years, I'd say.
Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, I just like hearing about how bands write because, like I said, every band usually has a different writing process depending on a new release. They want to try something different, or if they have habits or good or bad habits. I like to know a little bit more about them. So thank you for clearing that up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going through some of your social media stuff, you posted up a picture with 4 members saying we've been quiet lately, announcements coming soon. So what's going on with this lineup?
Well, unfortunately, about a month ago, one of our guitar players, Billy, decided to step down from the band. It's an unfortunate situation, but it's something we kind of knew was coming, and we respect his decision. We're still really cool with him. I actually just saw him today, so we're going to continue to move forward for the time being as a 4-piece.
Okay, well, I'm glad you guys are still moving forward. You guys sound great. You always put on a good performance, and you guys are pretty nice guys as well. I can attest for that myself. So
Thanks,
that is unfortunate to hear, but I'm glad you guys are moving on with that. You touched a little bit briefly on the next release. What can you tell me about this next release? Any information at all?
Well, we're getting ready. We're gearing up to get the first single for the album. That should be out within the next month or 2, I'd say. We're making preparations and stuff for that right now. I'm not really sure what the rest of the guys would like me to say and what they don't want me to say, but I know we have mentioned like the album name out in public and on social media before. So the album is going to be called Black Cloud. We kind of feel like the title is very fitting to a lot of the stuff that we've all had to deal with as a band and individually over the last couple of years since we've started doing this. And I believe there's about 7 tracks on the album. So I'm pretty excited for it.
Okay.
To finally get these songs out.
Excellent. I'm not going to push you because I don't know, again, what you're allowed to tell me or not. But Black Cloud album coming out this year, so that's pretty awesome to hear. You're no stranger to touring. I don't know how many tours you've been on. I don't know how many cities you've played, but it's a lot. Do you have any favorite tour stories you'd like to share?
Oh, man. I think, okay, so the one I think we all bring up the most, I'm pretty sure we were driving overnight to North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. It was either North Carolina or Florida. But I was driving, and my vocalist, Jesse, was sitting up front with me, and the rest of the guys were in the back of the van. And, I'm just driving down the highway, and then the dome lights in the van kick on, and I'm confused. So I look over to my vocalist, and I go, "What the hell's going on?"
Mm.
And then all the guys in the back of the van start like freaking out. They're yelling and shit. So I turn around, and our bass player Scott, he's got the back doors of the van wide open while we're driving down the highway, and he's pissing out of the back of the van. And the wind was kicking all the piss back into the van, so all the guys that were back there were getting sprayed with his urine. So every now and then, like they make the joke, they call it the piss mist. So I think that was probably one of the more memorable moments.
Now, I'm picturing this in my head while it's going on, too, because I'm like, okay, so he's driving down the highway, and the lights turn on. I'm like, okay, why would the lights turn on? And then good old bass player.
Yeah, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, too, I'm pretty sure that was his first tour with the band. Like, Scott's been with the band for, I think, 2 or 3 years now, and I'm pretty sure that was his first tour with the band. I'd say that was definitely a good way to start things off.
Right, good first impression. Well, not first impression, but first impression.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so continuing on with tour stuff, what's the best way to keep yourself sane on tour? Because a lot of people don't know how touring goes until they do it, and it's a great idea. I like the idea. I like doing it. However, there's parts that you don't like. And there's parts that you do like. So tell me about some of the best ways you keep yourself sane.
Honestly, I think that the rest of my band would probably be surprised to hear me say this, but I would say when you're on the road, I know money's tight, but if you can, I would say definitely treat yourself and the rest of the band to, a motel room. Let's go stop at a Motel 6. They're relatively cheap, $60-$70 a night. It's not typically something that you can do every night, especially being on the road. You have limited funds, stuff like that. You're not really making much money. So it can be tough to swing that, but I would say at least once while you're out to, treat yourself to getting a motel room so you can, at least take a shower and, get a good night's sleep, not in the van or on a van bench or something like that. The one run we did with you guys, I don't know if you remember, but I got like very, very sick on that run.
I do remember.
That sucked. But I'd have to say one of the things that really helped was the fact that we did once or twice, we got, a hotel room, and thankfully it was in that period of time while I was sick. If we were not doing that and I was having to sleep in the van, I'm sure that would only have added to how I was feeling at the time.
Right, and that's not to say you wouldn't get everyone else sick, and it's the middle of winter, and it's -2 degrees, and oh, I know.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, exactly. But I would say that's probably one of the best things to keep yourself sane. Just every once in a while, if you can, treat yourself to a hotel room, get a shower, get a decent night's sleep.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree with you. That's just one of the ways that we kept ourselves sane, and I know a lot of people out there as well. Because you don't think about how great a shower feels until you haven't had one in a couple of days. Yeah. So
absolutely.
So, are there any final thoughts? Anything you want to share with fans? Any final closing statements here?
Just keep checking out our social media. We're going to be dropping a new album within the next couple months here, definitely before the end of the year. It's called Black Cloud, and I hope everyone digs it.
All right, Nate, thank you so much. I'm going to talk to you here in a little bit off air. That's Nate White, the drummer from the band Sleepers. They got a brand new album coming out later this year called Black Cloud. They got a few releases out right now already, so you can check those guys out. They're probably touring through your town here soon because that's what they do. They like to tour. Super great guys. Make sure you pick up some merch from them. Check them out. All that good stuff. Thank you guys for checking out this episode of the podcast. Until then, we'll see you guys next time.